Do 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 Okay, so if you guys are hearing a loud buzzing noise, I cannot tell because my air conditioner is right next to me, and it's pretty hot and humid today. So I'm just going to, I'm going to see how long it can last before I have to, indifferently turn it on. I think that's the word I want to use. Okay, so today's episode, again, is at the temporary set with the bad webcam and all that. I'm actually going to try to get tomorrow, at least after uploading this and doing some editing, try to get the set built, or at least something that looks nice down there, because it looks like a damaged piece of shit room. But today I was going to talk about Adventurers League and paid DMs, but I'm going to do just Adventurers League and talk about that, and then maybe another video talk about the paid DMs. I can't really tell at the moment. It's kind of up in the air. So far, the first video seemed to have worked pretty well, I guess. If I do sound tired, long week, and I'm doing a video as quickly as possible so that I can actually discuss other things and work on other things at the same time. So I want to talk about Adventurers League because of a lot of stuff going on with it and how I run it for my groups. And then also I think I'm going to set paid DMs to another video. But also the first video seems to have done really well, even though it's an hour long. I got a couple good comments about how they just like the podcasting and the long rambling types, and I can keep the conversation going. That's kind of the good thing about it. But today I'm going to keep it kind of short, and I'm going to get straight to the point as best as possible from my experience with Adventurers League. So I'm going to do some laundry. One, my book is going out for the agents. It's getting quarried soon. We're setting that up for the 8th. We're going to send that out. So wish me luck on that. Break a leg or whatever it is. We're just trying to get an agent to buy my book. Dino Island is still a nightmare to format in Homebrewery. I'm still doing a second revision on it, trying to get it to sound more like, instead of me and my DM notes, trying to make it sound more like any random DM can pick it up and run it. So I'm running more things in it. I'm running different encounter options, also discussing if these options aren't met, how does a DM approach that situation. So I'm working in a lot of different angles and such, so it's better. My Eberron campaign is still in its first draft. It's not fully done. However, it was supposed to be a tie-in with the Doctor. It's supposed to be tied in with Dino Island 1, and it was supposed to be a trilogy of just fun adventures that connected together, but I dropped it to make it individual and unique to itself, because I also forgot the fact that Eberron and the Forgotten Realms are not on the same, plane of existence. Sorry. However, that's kind of on hold. I got a little bit done, like I got the ending to the campaign done, but I also have what's the word I'm looking for? I'll tip my tongue. A couple other things I need to add in just to make it work before I even go through a revision and a playtest. Dino Island we've playtested about twice now, and it came out pretty well, but I am still trying to perfect it so we get something nice for DMguild. The last video we did with the example being the Scooby-Doo Mystery Gang, one with the castle where it's a whodunit and the butler did it kind of a thing. I'm actually taking that and turning it into a one-shot and somewhat of a modular. I haven't sat down and actually figured that out. I just got a couple couple things written down to work off of, but I think that'd be something nice to have. I'm leaning a little bit more on one shot, but I don't think I'll be able to write it as a one shot. So that's pretty much all the laundry I have to dish out for the channel. So we're gonna dive into Adventures League. So when I got into Adventures League, I got into it again right when I started with D&D 5e. Wow, I wish I made a cup of coffee. I really do, because now, like, I've been up for the last hour working on stuff, and I'm like, you know, I'll make a video, and it's now slowly kicking me in the face. Oh, pain of falling asleep. But I'm gonna continue. So Adventures League caught my attention not only because of Puffin Forest, but a couple other people had brought up that there was an Adventures League kind of thing where at the time I thought it was, just like Puffin Forest said, it was kind of a gaming session. You'd show up with a character and you'd play through a mod, or you'd play a one-shot. Lo and behold, that seems to be not the same case as it is today. I think that's what I want to say. What happened is I went and I played Curse of Strahd at my local gaming store. But when I say local, I mean I drove like an hour away, because where I live in Ohio sucks ass. We have nothing popular whatsoever, and it's garbage. Later on, when it came to the game shop I actually volunteer at, they're actually been existing for I think about 3 years now. 3 or 2. It's kind of, I keep forgetting, but that they let me help them out with Adventures League, and we get a couple people that don't have a table to come in and sit down, and they are very, very nice guys, and I don't want to say they're grateful and all that because we have this table, because they've had other situations before with DMs and all that, and I work with them to at least keep, you know, people coming in for business, and, you know, give people one day out of the week to sit down and play D&D. Well, it was like every other week because we had worked with another group, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So when I first started, which, if you guys are keeping tallied, is Morton Caden's Tomb of Foes had came out, and I was working a full-time job where I had Monday through Friday and then the weekends off. So what happened is their Adventures League we had two shops, because I was in a big city. One of them was they had Adventures League on Wednesday nights, and then Friday night, Saturday night was, you know, Magic the Gathering, which is fine, it's great, but I will never get back into Magic the Gathering, because there's just something with that community, and I just don't understand it. I always play, and I always end up losing, because it's just my hand. Like, I never get a good enough hand to survive long enough to just, like, deal a lot of damage. But then there are just people that go, okay, I'm just gonna hit you for 250 health and eat all of my tokens because they have trample. And yes, that did happen. It was one of the reasons why I left Magic. But Adventures League for them was always on Wednesday nights, and then another place was Wednesday nights as well. But if I wanted to have my own table, I had to pay $35 to basically run out of table. Now, for some stores, I can understand that if you're in a budget crunch, but this would go more into the pay to play or free to play section of this discussion. So I didn't really get to play when I first started in Adventures League, and then when I moved back from the big city to suburban area I live in, I had found that there was a section up in another city that was an hour away that I would go. And again, never actually played it at that point, but I went up there and I found out that they had 9 tables of Tomb of Annihilation going. They had different groups going. And I know there's some idiot out there going, "Whoa, wait, how is that possible? How are they? How are there different tiers?" This is where the local game shop version of Adventures League versus the Wizards of the Coast guidelines, rules, bylines, and competitiveness comes from. So the best way I could describe local game shop is local game shop breaks it down to either they'll do the Adventures League rulings, which is super strict by today's standards, because back then it wasn't as bad as it is today, because today it's like it's really hard to just have fun, it feels like. And then the other option is the Wizard of the Coast way, which you see in the Puffin Forest video, which is basically when you show up with your level 1 character, it is a blank slate. When I say a blank slate, you don't have any magic items. You come in with what you get as a starting character. So you can buy your own equipment or just choose starting equipment. And once you do that, you basically hop into a table called the Tier 1 table, which is levels 1 through 5. And then once you get to level 5, you evolve to Tier 2, which is like 5 to 10. And then you keep going up the chain. Now, say, for example, you got to level 11. You died. You scrap the character. You go back to Tier 1 at level 1. You lose all your shit. Trying not to swear on this YouTube channel, I really am. Like, I'm trying to make that initiative goal not to swear, so it's family-friendly content. Do a great job. So, there would be also other times, too, if you were at, like, level 14, or was it, like, 14 or 15? Like, you were at, like, the little mark where you could do some downtime to get some experience to actually increase your character's level by 1 so you can go to the next table. That was a thing I had also read up on. But it got really bad in, I forget what season it was. I want to say it was season 8. But I remember what book had came out at the time. And it was Waterdeep Dragon Heist. And what happened was they nerfed magic items and gold to a point where players were stocking up so much gold, so many magic items, that they had to put a stop to it. Once they put a stop to it, players were getting somewhat bored. This was the last kind of ruling I had read up on, because at that point I was still playing in a Curse of Strahd campaign that was at the same store that had 9 tables of Tomb of Annihilation going on. Sorry, escaping my mind. And then I just kind of stopped playing Adventures League because I kept driving up every week with barely any money to go play Adventures League. And then the group kind of slowly broke up afterwards. But we still want to come back together and play a game. I still talk to the DM. He's still one of my friends that helps me. He especially helps me with the Dino Island, and I give him credit for it, even though he doesn't want credit for it. Because he's a better DM than I will ever be, if I could say that. Because he can actually figure out what to do in a situation faster than I can without knowing the rules. I usually do sit in and I do rules lawyer to a degree for new DMs to help them if they're stuck with a stupid question, like certain type of rules, certain situations where they're like, hey, I don't know if I should have the player do this, and that's when I kind of just step in and go, hey, you can do this to help. And a lot of times when I do that, the DM knows that I'm a good person at the rules and knows I respect whatever choice they have at the end. Not like, well, that doesn't make sense. I should have been able to do this because of this and this.
Oh, this spell effect should have been like this, where, you know, done D6 damage instead of a D plus.
No. Hate players like that. Because if you commit to something, you have to commit to it. It doesn't matter about the rule. Because if, for example, it TPK'd a whole team because the rule was different, okay, that's understandable. That's on the DM. But if it's because you just want to roll like 6 nat 20s, oh, okay. That's because that's what your, your proficiency is plus whatever. Okay, whatever. I'm going off tangent and I'm sick and tired of stupid tangents like that. Oh, God. Anyways, way. Whew. Adventures League. So, when I played it in my area with Cursus Rod, I played for, I think I have 11 sessions. I think it was 11 sessions or it was 8 sessions that I wrote. And that's a whole nother story I will tell. Because I have to reread the story to regurgitate it because it's so hard to pull it from memory nowadays because it's been, I think, I want to say 3 years. 2 or 3. But I went there and I had so much fun. Like you just show up with a character and dice and you just play. They pick the mod, you run people through a mod and you don't have to pay. Here comes the butt of the conversation. So I had to stop going 1 hour up to the other big city. So I looked around my area. One place refused to even run it because they're a comic book store. They just don't want that stuff. But they'll keep running Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! The other thing was I had a gaming shop before the new gaming shop that I'm volunteering at existed. Literally tell me I had to pay $5. So here we're coming to that free-to-play versus pay-to-play. I actually talked to Wizards of the Coast about it, and they told me, we don't care. Okay, here's the thing. And it goes into a huger topic with paid DMs, paid tables, and just paying to play this game. I understand from a business standpoint that a paid DM is putting in the time and effort to produce a product that people want, which is people don't want to be the DM, they want to play and they want to, show up, pay, get a good time, go home, and then, continue. Just have a full session. Because that's what you don't get nowadays, is you'll have like maybe 1 or 2 sessions and the group breaks up. However, if I'm being told that, especially from the game shop, if I'm being told that you're just going to take my $5 for an in-store credit, what's the point? And I've talked to my game shop about it too. It's like, what's the point? Because I'm willing to spend money here to be here. By adding in a charge, it's causing people who, 1, can't afford it to not play. 2, who don't want to actually come and play because they have that fee. And then 3, it blocks a lot of new people out because new people assume, especially online, that it's free to play. Like you just show up like a regular board game night. But I understand from it took me a while to understand from both sides of the coin, especially if you're like renting out a table. If it's a business and they're asking for at least a down payment or deposit for you to rent out a table for the day or for that session, yeah, I can somewhat understand and agree to it. But to have players kind of go, all right, I have to pay you $50 to run a session for this month, and especially with my one friend that that volunteers DMs with me, he paid a DM and got completely bamboozled in session 0. So I feel sorry for him. But they wanted me to pay them like $5 and use it for in-store credit. I was like, yeah, no, not happening. Because I would buy stuff from your store to give you revenue. You don't have to hold my money and put it in store credit because I paid in store credit. Now, if it's like draft night for Magic the Gathering or tournament play, that's understandable because you're paying an entry fee to do it. And especially for draft night, you're paying for a pack of cards that you're shuffling with people. That, again, is understandable. But really, for just sitting down and playing D&D, that's where I kind of draw a line, is paying versus free to play. I think it depends on the situation you're in. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So Adventures League, though, I had a hard time getting back into, and one of the things that really ticked me off about Adventures League is the Wizards of the Coast ruling side of this, which makes it feel competitive. I would go online on D&D Beyond and try to talk to people about Adventures League and share my experiences, and then I would immediately get beaten down and told, that's not the way you play it. This is not the right rules. We should do something about that. That's not right. Okay, so I get that it should be played like Tomb of Horrors, where you run players through. It's a meat grinder, and if they get out on the other side, they get some gold, they get some experience, and they can jump to another tier. Great. Awesome. I understand that I have to choose from one of 4 guilds that are beyond stupid, and I'm kind of grateful that we've slowly gotten away from it, because it kind of railroads your character into a position. And I don't even remember the names, so moving past that. I get that there are guidelines, but honestly, I just don't care. I'd rather be able to come in, sit down at a table, jump in, jump out, play, and just have 4 hours of my life just playing the game with a bunch of randos or a couple people I know. I'd rather do that than try to sit down with a mid-max character trying to go through a dungeon that they posted last week on Wizards of the Coast just so I can get X amount of gold and see if I can possibly jump to another tier. To me, that seems pretty stupid. Fun to you, maybe. Pretty stupid to me, because it's not fun. I'm more of the role player, even though I play Monster of the Week. I don't like the just kind of just running and jumping tiers kind of a thing. I'm more of a role-playing type guy, Monster of the Week a session kind of a thing, which has always been, especially at our Adventures League, we try to have, at least I tell the DMs, try to have one major encounter that players can fight in. We can do a lot of role-playing and investigating, but if we keep doing a lot of role-playing and investigating, the players might be disappointed that they're not, like, slaying monsters. I'm not saying drop a dragon in the middle of the campaign, but, like, balance it out between role-playing and interactive to combat and that stuff. So, I'm going to break down here where my rules are on Adventures League that I run. So, when I got the group that we had, because COVID, basically it was, we had a random game of a modded version of Curse of Strahd where we were in the castle and we had 48 hours to defeat Strahd, save, I think it was like, we thought it was Tatiana, but it was Irina. Yeah, I think that was the name off the top of my head. She was already in the castle, bitten, and we're trying to save her. But we're going through a madhouse of just horrible traps. I think it was Ravenloft 2 had a couple. They had a couple of things, plus Curse of Strahd, so it had some elements from the 5e. It was fine. The one thing that really grinded my gears about it was you couldn't bring a pre-made character in. You had to use what the DM already set in stone, and it was clear the DM wanted us to tell a story, because my halfling had an advantage in one room, and I was able to try to save the party because they had tripped a poison trap. and I was immune to poison. No idea how, no idea why, but I figured quickly that the campaign was definitely, I don't want to say railroaded, but there was you had a role to fulfill while playing this game. It was fun, but the DM had to leave, and instead the remaining people we had left at the time was, I think, four or five people. Yeah, we'll just say 4 people. Two of them were like veteran DMs, and I'm like, hey, well, you guys want to run something? That would help us out a lot if you could run something. I did not want to DM anything because, especially like nowadays with like Starfinder, it's a nightmare for me. I do want to learn how to DM, and I definitely want to sit behind the DM screen and tell a story, but I have to have the right people to do it with, because I've had too many of those guys ruining games for me, where it's like I just run into this guy's character who is beyond the lore of the area they're in, only for them to complain that they roll nat 1 over stupid things. It's just thinking about it, it's already causing an aneurysm. But any of the, horrible game stories that you've heard about, like the guys that do weeaboo stuff, guys that are into some weird, messed up kinks that show up in games, yeah, you got me there. That stuff just ruins games for me, and I've had my fair share. But when we sat down, we're like, hey, who's gonna DM the next game, and what should we DM? We pulled out Baldur's Gate: Descent to Avernus. It was the new book at the time, and we're like, well, does anyone want to go to Hell? This seems to be kind of interesting. We can go to Baldur's Gate and go directly to Hell and figure out what's going on in Hell. It'd be an easier way to do drop in, drop out, and you have the DM could have a way to set up each week or every other week. So our DM took on the challenge, and he did a really good job up to the point that COVID happened. We did get more than his limit was 8 players. We have 8 players at the table. After 8, cut a new table. We had 1 table only at our game shop, and it wasn't like you had to be like a VIP or you had to pay to play. No, if you had a character, you could show up and we would get you into the game. If you were new and you wanted to play, we can roll you up a character really quickly, because D&D Beyond, and we can get you situated to start playing with the group today. That was our motto with getting new people in. We had house rules, and it's hard for me to remember some of the house rules. One thing, though, we kept from Adventurers League was the PBH +1 rule, which is the player's handbook plus an additional book, which is kind of hard in an actual Adventurers League, because in an actual Adventurers League, they would not consider Ravnica or Theros a +1 book because it's Magic the Gathering. They did during Eberron. I remembered they let Eberron in, but it was Eberron plus something else. They actually didn't let you choose anything else from Eberron. Or not. They didn't let you choose anything else from a different book, because it was either you go strictly with Eberron stuff or you go strictly with the player's handbook. And that blew my mind, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, so you mean to tell me that you're going to have a party of artificers just continuously just playing? Because everybody at that point is going to be picking, a race from the player's handbook, and then Eberron, and their only class they're going to really want to have fun with is going to be the artificer class, because it just came out. So you're going to have a table of just artificers. That was what I was trying to get at with the rollings on it, because it was so stupid, and I couldn't get my head around it, because they were trying to minimize the amount of books you could have, and they want people to play from the Eberron book. Try Eberron stuff. But any which way, our PBH rule stayed, and it was very difficult because the one thing we all agreed on was the variant human had to be blocked. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. It could not be allowed because they got a feat at first level, and nobody else can get a feat. Great, that's not going to happen. I had the variant tiefling situation, and I tried my best to try to see how to balance it. At that point, I'm like, all right, fine, let it in. Just, there's no point. Let's just let it happen because I don't see anything game breaking. It's just a different type of heritage kind of a thing going on. But now with the new book coming out, it doesn't matter because we can, change out a lot of stuff. But the other thing we did was for house rules was flanking. Flanking is the dumbest house rule I've ever seen that isn't in a book. Because basically what flanking is, if you don't use it or if you don't know what it is you'd basically get an advantage if you are attacking at an angle or sandwich. That was kind of the ruling we were having, is if you were able to attack with someone by you, you get advantage because you're tag teaming. But if you agreed to this rule, then we can agree to having our mobs or monsters attack you in the same way. Which has happened on occasion. We'll have goblins show up and just try to flank somebody, and they freak out, and then one of the party members goes over and is like, okay, you got advantage now too. And if you don't know what advantage is, basically you take two 20s, you roll them, take the higher number. Disadvantage, you roll both of them and you take the lower number. It's the equivalent of just, I don't even know what the equivalent of that's going to be, because literally it's so simplified down from the other editions of Dungeons and Dragons that it just works. It just works. But we kept with the rule because it would not only make the team comp feel kind of cool, that you would have like a barbarian and a fighter tagging up against a couple of big monsters, but also you would have like the barbarian giving the wizard advantage in certain situations. Like, we were taking into account a lot of stuff when it came to oh wow, skipping ahead, flanking, just so it would feel more exciting and fulfilling. What else was there? I always forget the house rules. I think we had one for buying stuff. You could buy stuff at the beginning of every session as long as it made sense. Like, if you were trying to buy another weapon, no. But if you wanted to buy, like, I think my artificer in hell, like, I bought 1,000 flasks before I went into hell, and we just put it in a bag of holding and just called it a day. Just every time I needed to make an because that was the thing. We did allow ritual casting didn't need components, and spell casting didn't need components, just to make the combat and casting easier for the spellcasters. But I would always still kind of keep to that thing where it's like, okay, well, I can't cast it without a certain item, and for an alchemist, you needed like a freaking container. There we go again with swearing. You needed a container just so you can put the stuff in and then cast your alchemist spell. So I always carried 1,000 flasks while we were in hell. So stupid, but so worth it. So we always had like our one druid would always transform into like a wolf. We allowed it because he wasn't transforming into a dinosaur, which has happened to me. But we allowed it because it gave a different type of combat style to him. He was able to also later on be able to spawn like 2 wolves with him, and then he would just do pack attack. And there was a way to get around the pack attack, which was just deal a lot more damage to him. But we never that cruel. We knew what he was doing. He was that type of druid that was on the offensive, and we had enough people to be on the defensive that it was kind of nice to just have an offensive character like that. And that's what we kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Appraised, or like we were like, yeah, this is a good idea, because a lot of the times, you always have those people that are like, okay, I am the rogue, I'm going to stealth and steal stuff. I am the druid, I'm going to heal and talk about nature. I am the fighter, stab stab. How much damage is that? Okay, stab stab again. I am the wizard, I'm gonna die. So it's like we were doing things to make we were making it more fun for people. Like, we were taking into consideration stuff that would sound awesome and wouldn't break the game. And I knew ways to get around certain abilities and certain things, and I wasn't gonna like, okay, well, you can't do that because in the book I know it says that, and I definitely know that's broken, because I was always open to having the rule of cool happen, which is if if it was to happen, it would happen. But the brainstorm in my head, because it's so late at night, popping in my head about this, into Descent into Avernus. The druid, we're in the town. We're in the town that's pulled into hell, and we're trying to leave it, and there are ghouls coming outside of the town towards us. There's just like a mob of them coming. And the DM is just sitting there, and we slowly destroy this encounter. I gotta drink more Red Bull. I'm getting so tired. So, the druid puts up a thorn bush kind of a thing. I forget the spell off my head, but he puts up a barrier that if they all go through it, they will take 66 damage and like just die hitting this thing. They all had like, I think level like they had like at least 1 HP or 5. So they were just getting annihilated. He casted I think a high level too, just so it would do the most amount of damage to protect the party. The ranger and I forget somebody else was in a 2nd story balcony readying their bows. The barbarian hopped into a tree that was in the street because it was a nice fancy town. He hopped up in a tree, and I was beneath the tree readying like a spell. And the moment the DM was allowed to start the encounter, he's like, so this encounter is scrapped. We're like, wait, why? You basically have X amount of ghouls that are going to run into this and then just die. I'm like, wait. Could you? Because we thought it was like an alleyway. Could you do it like it was a street and just come towards the tree and just start the encounter there? Because then it gives you that chance that you might be able to like knock us out. But I don't really want to. Like, you could send half of the ghouls through this, and then the rest could like spotted like me and the barbarian over by the tree, and that'd totally be fine to do an encounter. Okay. We would work with our DM when it came to situations like that, because and a lot of players don't understand is like a DM does have fun during encounters. They love being the villain. They love being the big ginormous monster that's about to completely TPK the party. But when you just kind of like steamroll something they had planned like that, it kind of ruins the encounter and ruins the game a little bit, because you're just min-maxing at that point. So we would work with our DM about that. I think I kind of want to wrap this up, but I don't know. I am running out of steam a little bit. I am falling asleep. But do I think you should try Adventures League? In 2020, that's not happening with COVID. Thanks. In 2020, kind of have your expectations lowered a bit, and kind of understand what you're going to do. One thing is you can't really be what you would be at a home game, and you definitely can't bring homebrew into Avengers League. That was the main thing too. Was we would always block homebrew, especially like there was some weird stuff that was like going on that we're like, oh hey, it's cool that we have this in UA, but no, not at all. Sadly, the new book is going to bring out the JoJo monk, and I'm just like, nope, not at all. It is probably nerfed. I'll give you that, but we always block homebrew because if it's homebrew, it's not play tested enough. It's not in the legal books. We stick to that rule. But like I'm trying to bring up the fact that you have to lower your expectations a bit, because if you're going there to have a fun time during the week, great. If not, you might get places like I went to one place that was half of the distance from the big city I was going to, and they were playing 3.5, and I had a 5e character. I'm like, well, great, I can't play. And none of these guys are like fun to really play with. Okay, I'm probably not coming back. And it's not me, it's just there are different groups out there too. You don't have to play 5e. You can find Pathfinder. If they ever actually, have people to play Pathfinder 2e or Starfinder, please. I could really find a game. Really find a game, because I would like to play those games. But there's always one for Dungeons and Dragons. It's the very, very popular one. Online would be a complete separate thing to talk about. I don't recommend it, but I digress. I'm going to end the video here. I'm getting tired. If the rambling was okay, hit the like. If not, sorry. I will see you guys in the next video, and next video will be probably paid DMs, and I will add to that list online versus physical play. All right, I'm out. Bye, guys.